Christy, welcome back to my channel and welcome to card 4 in my 2017 Valentine card series. Today I'm going to be using the My Favorite Nut and the Floral Heart from Neat and Tangled, and I thought I was going to use this Posh 6x6 pad by Simple Stories, but I end up switching that for something else later in the video. So to begin, I have put some Bristol Smooth Surface cardstock inside my MISTI, and I'm going to treat that with my powder tool. And then I'm going to stamp the floral heart wreath with some VersaFine Onyx Black ink. I'm just going to ink that up really good and close the lid to press that into place. And then I'm going to ink that up a second time so that I can get a really nice dark impression. So I'll just close that again right over top. And then I'm going to grab some clear embossing powder and I'm going to coat that with that just so that I can have a nice shiny raised black line to do some watercoloring. And then I'll just tap off the back to remove any excess powder. And then I'll set that aside so that I can do the same thing to another piece of Bristol, just treating that with my powder tool. And then I'm going to take one of the squirrel images in this set, and this is the one holding the little acorn, and I'm going to ink that up twice as well with my VersaFine Onyx Black, and then I will coat that with some clear embossing powder as well. I warmed up my heat tool for about 30 seconds off camera just to get it good and hot, and now I'm taking it to the cardstock, just being sure not to keep it in one place for too long so the cardstock doesn't get scorched, and I'm just going to set that until the embossing powder is all black and shiny. I wanted to watercolor this image with my zigs today, so I'm starting out with a couple of greens. The 41 light green is going to be my darker shade for these kind of rounded, smooth type leaves. And I'm just going to work in little sections at a time so that the ink doesn't saturate into the paper too much. Then I'm going to take number 45 pale green and just draw that color out a little bit. And then I will grab my number 2 round paintbrush. This is the silver black velvet brushes, and I'll just take a little bit of water and blend that out. When I'm working on images like this that have a lot of detail and a lot of different little designs, and it may be difficult to see right away what's what, I just like to pick out the similar images and work from those. So that's why I'm doing all these kind of smoother leaves, and then just working around as I go, and it makes it a lot easier to kind of break down, and that way you don't end up coloring something in a shade that you don't really want. So now I'm going to move on to these kind of pointed leaves, and I'm going to start with the 43 olive green as my darkest shade, and then I'm going to switch to the 46 mid green to kind of blend that out a bit, and then I will grab my paintbrush and just smooth that out towards the tip for a nice highlight. There's another cluster of these kind of leaves at the tops, so I'll move back to my 43 olive green to just do my darkest and switch to the 46 mid green for the medium, and then just blend those out again. And the great thing about these markers is that you really just need to scribble on the color. They're so forgiving and they blend beautiful on this Bristol Smooth Surface cardstock. There is a third type of leaf there in the middle on either side, so you certainly could do a different shade of green, but I decided to just go back to my original shades, the 45 pale green and the 41 light green, and just keep it within those two green color families for some consistency. Moving on to the flowers, I decided to do these 3 larger flowers. Well, there's 2 larger and 1 small one in the 21 Light Carmine. Just scribbling the color in the center where I want it to be the darkest, and then blending out towards the edges with a little bit of water. For the clusters of smaller flowers, I'm going to take the 26 Light Pink. It's just one shade lighter than the Light Carmine that I was just using. And then I'll just dip my brush in a little bit more water and blend that out. And you may notice that I keep wiping it off on the back of my hand, and that's just to make sure that my brush isn't too wet. For the berries, I'm going to grab number 36 Light Blue, and I'm just going to color those in. I'm not going to even blend those out with any water. And I love that these paintbrush markers, they have a really super fine tip so that I'm able to get in there with all the little detail and just color those in nicely. So I'm going to set that aside to dry and move on to my little squirrel. So for him, I'm going to do my shadows with the 62 Dark Brown, and I'm not going to use too much of that, just a little bit here and there where I really want to intensify the shadows, and like I'm putting a lot more on the tail because I want his body to come in the foreground. And then I'm going to blend that out with the number 60 Brown, and this color has a lot of red in it, so it's going to make him look like the red squirrels that are my most favorite type. And then I can just take my paintbrush again and begin to blend that out, just adding the water in the places where the color isn't yet, and then drawing that pigment down into that space. If I get a little bit too much, I just add a little bit extra clean water and kind of wipe that color away. So I'm just going to blend his face in now, trying to keep the darkest color towards the outside edges and make it a little bit lighter in the middle so that you can still see his eyes. For the nut portion of my little acorn, I'll use number 64 Oatmeal. Just add a little shading to the one side and then under the cap, and then blend that out with some water. And then I grabbed a shade that I didn't like, so I just used the 65 Mid Brown right over top of that on the edge of the cap and blended that out with a little more water as well. I used number 26 Light Pink to just color in his ears a little bit, and then I did fix the bloom on his tail. I think the camera didn't catch that. I cut out the inside of my heart with the matching inner portion of the two-part die that comes with the set to create a window, and then used the MFT stitched wonky rectangle frames to die cut that out. And then I'm taking the Heart Day paper pad by Crate Paper, and I cut down a piece of pattern paper there, and I'm adhering that to a piece of Spectrum Noir Ultra Smooth Premium White cardstock. I just glued that down with a bit of Tombow Mono Multi Glue and then just smoothed it into place. And that way the pattern paper can peek through the window and also have a little bit of a border around the outside edge. So I'm going to take the sentiment. I'm using the part that says favorite, and I'm inking that up with some VersaFine Onyx Black ink, and I'll just stamp that down right in the center. And that didn't stamp perfect, but I'm going to fix that in a little bit. But for now, I'm going to take the rest of the sentiment, which says, "You are my," and I'm going to stamp that right above. And then I'm going to take a third piece to the sentiment that says "Little Nut," and I just want to be sure that I have it exactly where I want it before I push it down. And so the whole sentiment will read, "You are my favorite little nut." And since these cards are going to the Caring Heart card drive that's going to benefit St. Jude's Children's Hospital and other hospitals, I think that's the perfect sentiment for a little kid. So now I'm taking my Memento dual brush marker and just fixing my sentiment. Some of that black didn't show up as much as I wanted it to. And then I took some Scotch 3M foam tape and just made sure to cover the back of my focal panel. And I'm going to line that up right over the sentiment and then just press that down into place. Then I'll take my squirrel and just add him with a bit more Tombow Mono Multi Glue to the left side of the card to balance out the sentiment on the right. To add some fun to the inside of the card, I'm going to take my Lawn Fawn Wild Rose ink And I'm going to use another sentiment from this set. It's chock full of sentiments. It says, "I go nuts for you," and I'll just stamp that down in the center of the card. And then I have mounted an additional squirrel and a couple of hearts, and I'll stamp that down in the left corner. So I think that is a really cute way to bring the front of the card into the inside as well. And that's going to complete our card for today. This is also my first design team project for Butterfly Reflections Inc. And I'll have links to all the products in the description bar below the video. I'll also have a link to the Cards from the Heart card drive. If you'd like to participate in that, you can check that out. That's going through the end of the month. Here's a couple extra videos I thought you might enjoy, and you can always click on my photo to subscribe to my channel. Have a great day. Bye-bye.